Hi, everybody. I'm Leslie with the New Mexico Small Business Development Center. And again, love Eric Spellman and what he talks about because it's always so relevant for small businesses. Today, top 10 online scams every small business must avoid. I want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, raise your hand or type them into the Q&A and we'll get to them throughout the entire webinar. So don't be shy. Just let us know if you need any more information on any of the slides today. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric Spellman, public speaker extraordinaire.
Oh, thank you, Leslie. And I am excited about this topic. Let me tell you, if I could warn more people about what y'all are about to see, I would, because you would be surprised at how many millions and millions of dollars are just being lost to con artists. Well, I'm here to help you understand how to look for that. Back in the old days, we always used to know how to do that, before the internet came along. But then all of a sudden the internet came along and all these scams took on a new life. Because back in the day, people believed that if it was on their computer, it was true. I know that sounds so weird today, but I was around when the internet came around. I was one of the first people on it. I say that not to brag. I say that because I saw all of you people getting on it for the first time. And I know some of the crazy things y'all believe. So we won't even get into any Nigerian princes with large fortunes they want to share with you. But let's just say some of you went in hook, line, and sinker. So let's talk about them. Some of them you may have experienced, some of them you know, and well, let's see how many of them you can actually avoid. So starting out, number one, domain stealing. This is huge. Basically, here's how it works. You will get, now, first of all, what is a domain? A domain is your .com or your .net or your .org or your .whatever, okay? Like ericspellman.com or nmsbdc.org, or that's your domain. It's the something .whatever. You technically don't own it, you reserve it, okay? And you register it through places like GoDaddy. And what GoDaddy does is they keep other people from using it. And so the internet knows that every time they type in whoeveryouare.com, it knows where to go, okay? It knows what server to go to where your website is. So what you do is you register it, and you register it on a yearly basis. These days, you can get domains, depending on how far out you want to register, for as low as like $5 a year. A year. Now, some of you are going, Eric, I don't remember registering my domain. Probably because you didn't. Chances are when you had your website built, you had them do it. Your web designers, which brings up a whole nother issue. So keep in mind that you must keep control of your .com, because some of you have your email based on it too. And if you allow someone to take over your domain, guess what? You lose your website, you lose your email, you basically lose your company's entire ability to communicate. You lose your identity. You cannot have that happen, and yet we see it surprisingly happen a lot. So here's how it works. You'll either get a phone call or you'll get something in the mail. The mail is typically where I see this the most. Actual, snail mail, paper mail that comes from the post office. You'll get it and it'll give you this huge warning. It'll look all legal, like it's a court summons even. And it'll say, your domain is at risk of being reserved by someone else. To stop this from happening immediately, call us. Sounds pretty convincing, doesn't it? Well, that's how they do it. And so since you and many other people maybe don't even remember registering your domain, not realizing what the expiration date on it is, you believe it. And so then you contact this company. And what they actually do is they transfer your domain from GoDaddy to them. And they could be Uncle Ned's House of Domains. So you're saying, so I don't lose it? You're saying, here's the deal. When you transfer it to Uncle Ned's House of Domains, which isn't a real place, I hope, then what's really going to happen is they're going to start charging you a lot more per year. In other words, to manage your domain. And technically, they will control it. And it could get really nasty because you could lose control of it if you don't pay them. And then they own it and they can do anything they want with it. And they will turn your website domain into some sort of porn site, which, if you're a company, I can't even imagine what that would do. Or they may redirect it to a phishing site or a hacking site or something like that. The point is, it's all because you believed a letter or you believed a phone call from someone saying, hey, y'all are blah, blah, blah.com, right? Well, yeah. Well, it looks like y'all are about to expire. And we've got another company that's looking to jump on it as soon as it expires. And oh, by the way, it expires tomorrow. All we need is a credit card. In some cases, this is simply a trick to get you to transfer the domain to them. Then they'll charge you more. In other cases, they just want to steal the domain from you outright, or they want to steal your money and they don't care a bit about your domain. They're just using that as the excuse to get your credit card number or your bank transfer information. And of course, you get charged a lot of money. Now, you're going to want to pay attention to this last address I just gave you. You might write it down, although keep in mind you will be receiving a copy, or you can go download a copy of this entire presentation. So don't feel like you have to write everything down. But this last one you might want to write down because you'll want to check it as soon as we're done here. You need to go to the website, whois, and that's right, WHOIS, whois.godaddy.com. Put in your domain and see what comes up. Okay, this is an actual GoDaddy site, so it's safe. Put in your domain and see what comes up. It'll tell you who owns it. Now, one of two things is going to happen when you do this. Either A, it's going to list, and it's going to show you a list of who owns it. And there are basically three records that are going to pop up. One is the administrative contact, another is the billing contact, and then there's the technical contact. These are three different people, if you will, who will get contacted depending on what's going on with your domain. The administrative contact is the owner. And yes, you need to make sure that you or your company are the quote owners, the legal owners, so to speak, of it, because those are the only people that can make decisions about it. So that needs to be in the administrative contact. Sadly, I've seen a lot of web developers who don't know how to register domains, and they will actually register your .com in their name. And guess what? Legally, they own it at that point. And so that way, when one day you get tired of them, you say, I don't like these web designers, I want to go somewhere else, I want to take my website somewhere else, they won't let you. Because guess what? You don't even control your own .com. They hold you hostage. Can't have that happen. Okay. So you've got to make sure that you own your .com. And if this whole the other thing you're going to get on Whois. So either Whois is going to show you who owns your domain, or it's going to come up and say, this domain is private and you can't see who it is. It's not publicly listed. And that is an option in GoDaddy you can do, is you can make it private to where no one can see that information. So if your web designers did that, you're not going to be able to verify whether you own it or not. So in that case, you need to call the web designers and say, hey, I want to log into GoDaddy. I want to log into wherever you register this and verify who the people are on it. You've got to verify that, people. There is a domain. There is a login and a username to some domain registrar somewhere, probably GoDaddy, where your domain is registered. And you need the ability to get in there, because if you need to move, like point your .com to another server, you've got to be able to do that, especially if you're angry with your current web designer or web host. Any questions on that? Because we see a lot of this, actually, and it's sad. If you have any questions, just ask it in chat or raise your hand, and you don't have to wait till the end to do that. Okay? Okay, number 2 scam we see: fake Google calls. Can we talk? Can we talk? You're not important enough for Google to call you. I'm sorry to share that with you. Google does not call people, okay? Anyone who calls your company, anyone who calls you claiming to be Google is lying, okay? Do not believe them. And usually what they will do is they will say something like this. They'll say, hey, we're here at Google and we notice you haven't finished filling out your profile. And because of that, you're not showing up in search. We can fix that right now. And would you like us to fix that so that people can find you on Google? And of course, what are you going to do? You're going to go, sure. And that's when they hit you up. Well, it's very cost effective. For only like 20 bucks a month, we'll make sure that you stay at the top of blah, 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 blah in Google. See? Now all of a sudden you're paying 20 bucks a month for nothing. What they're actually doing is selling you ads. Because when someone claims they can get you to #1 in Google overnight, you need to hang up. You need to hang up. You need to hang up. If anyone ever tells you they can guarantee you #1 spot on Google, hang up. It is impossible to guarantee someone that. Not even Google can guarantee you that. Okay? Trust me, I have a whole talk just on that we'll have at some point on why that's the case. But just realize no one can promise you #1 being found on Google. They can't do it. Okay? So the way they fake it and make you think they did is they actually sell you an ad. So for instance, let's say that you're giving them 50 bucks a month. What they do is they take 25 of that 50 and they buy some Google ads for your company. So yeah, when you start doing searches, you sure do show up #1, but guess what? It's an ad. And every time someone clicks on it, cha-ching, you're getting charged. And when you run out of $25 for that month, guess what happens? Your ads disappear until another $25 shows up. Now you're saying, well, Eric, they charged me 50 and they only used 25 for Google. Where'd the other 25 go? In their pocket. That's the scam we see. Don't ever pay someone claiming to be from Google to help you rank better. It just doesn't exist. Google does not call you. Learn how SEO, or search engine optimization, in other words, how to rank well on Google, learn how that actually operates, okay? And I'll be giving you a talk on that coming up soon. But don't ever, 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 ever fall for this one. I have a lot of people I know who really got burned on this. Okay, #3, email lists for sale. You know, people like me are always telling you, you need to get involved in email. Your company needs to send email. In fact, I'll be honest, the best tool, in my opinion, on promoting your company, believe it or not, is email. But you have to know how to do it where you're not being called a scammer, okay? And one of the big ways you avoid being called a scammer or even a spammer, funny how they rhyme, is you know that you cannot buy an email list. You know that it is illegal to buy a list of email addresses from anybody. See, it all goes back to the CAN-SPAM Act of 1996. Congress, back when the internet was young and kind of like a Wild West town, you know, Congress saw that there was a lot of abuse going on by people emailing and tricking people. So they cracked down on it and they basically said that the only way you can email someone for business is if they gave you their email address and they know what you're going to do with it. Did you hear me? That's what the CAN-SPAM Act of 1996 said in one part, is that in order to get an email address for your list that you want to send to, Those people must have given it to you knowing that they are going to get something in return from you, like an email or a newsletter or something. Unfortunately, there's a lot of losers out there who are selling email lists, and all they did was they set up a little robot to go to all these websites that print email addresses, and they just harvested them and created monster lists, and then they turn around and sell them. And people not realizing that if they attempt to use those lists, oh my gosh, if you attempt to use that list, you're a spammer. Because what's going to happen is those people don't know who you are. They got your email and they're going to click this is spam. And do you know what happens if enough people click this is spam? You get blocked. Not just that newsletter, not that one newsletter. Your.com, your email gets blocked all over the internet. You pretty much don't exist anymore. No one can email you, and you can't email anyone. And no one can see your website anymore. Trust me, getting blocked like that is a nightmare to have to get out of. Because the only way to get out of it is basically to contact all the major email providers out there, which is hard in and of itself, and apologize and jump through their hoops and fill out all this stuff and say, I'll never do it again. People, it can take weeks. And in the meantime, you're losing business. Don't you ever buy an email list from anybody. Okay. Okay, number 4, a friend in need. How many of us would help a friend? How many of us wouldn't bend over backward to give the shirt off our back to either a friend or family member in need? Of course we would. And the scammers know it. So what they do is they actually hack the accounts of one of your friends and pretend to be them and contact you, usually through social media. Or they hack their phone, so to speak, and contact you through texting, which is even more devious. And so it actually looks like it's coming from your friend. And your friend may say something like, hey, I'm overseas. And if they're really cheap and they didn't hack anyone, they'll say something like, I'm borrowing a friend's phone because mine doesn't work here. I'm stuck overseas. I got mugged and someone took my passport. The US says they have to, that I have to do this, this, and this, and I have no money. And is there any way you can transfer some money to me? I opened a little bank account over here in Denmark. And if you could just get that money to me, then I can get it to the US consulate and everything's, and I get a new passport. It's fake. It's fake. And if you actually talked to them, heard their voice, you would know it wasn't them. But these people communicate via text, or they communicate via direct message, like on Facebook. And they use the whole stuck overseas. Why? Because they know it's pretty much impossible for you to call them. Okay. That's why they use that. They love the whole stuck overseas. And that, you need financial help. And like I said, what are you going to do? Say no? So sometimes they use a hacked Facebook account to DM you, to direct message you. A lot of times they will actually text you. So what I would say is this. First of all, very few people actually have to make that phone call for real. And if you get stuck overseas, you're not calling friends for money. You're not texting friends for money. You're going to the US consulate. You're talking to the ambassador. You're just replacing a passport. It's not that big a deal. It happens all the time. So chances are you will, if you ever get that text or direct message, just ignore them. It's not real. Or tell them to call you. They never will. What we call this is phishing. And yes, it's spelled with a PH. Phishing. Phishing is where you send out a mass email. Now, keep in mind the way this works is these people may send out a whole bunch of texts or a whole bunch of DMs to a lot of people fishing for victims. Okay. And they will go after them. They'll send a whole bunch at once. That's called phishing. A lot of times, though, I'm seeing spear phishing happen. Now, that's another term you need to know. Spear phishing is where you're not sending it out to all sorts of people, seeing who the most foolish ones are, most gullible ones are. Spear phishing is where you target one person. Spear phishing is where you know who your victim will be. You know their name, and you do research on them, and you work hard to fool them by knowing more about them than they know themselves. Spear phishing usually targets rich people, or it targets famous people. And that's how you've seen a lot of hacks occur, where famous people have money stolen or their social media accounts get hijacked. It's because someone spearphished them, went specifically after them, and probably asked for something like, hey, this is Joe over in your advertising department. Hey, we need to get that social media post done. I need the username and password. So maybe you actually have a guy named Joe in your advertising department. And so you give it to him and boom, your account is hacked. We call that social engineering. It's basically where they just fool you. And even though they're using the internet, it's kind of a pre-internet kind of con, to be honest. They're pretending to be someone they aren't. Number 5, Microsoft calls you. I've already talked about Google calling you. Well, this is a little different. It's not Microsoft promising any kind of search ranking at all. No, in this case, someone from Microsoft is calling, or they won't even say Microsoft. They might say something like, hey, this is the tech department, or this is tech support, or this is the internet virus tracking system. Doesn't even exist. Hey, our systems are telling us that your computer has a virus. And we're calling to let you know that unless we take it off right now, it's going to start sending out a lot of stuff and get you in trouble with the police. And we know it's not your fault, but we don't want you blamed for this. And we know you don't want to go through all that headache. So for $50, we can go in there and fix that virus for you. And so what does grandma and grandpa say? Well, of course. You're with Microsoft, you said? Okay. So then what actually happens is the person on the other end of the phone says, you know what? All I need to do is get in there and I can remove it myself, but it's kind of technical. So I want you to go download this program and click on it. And when you do, that'll give me access so that I can get rid of the virus. Now, a lot of times people get nervous when they hear that, like, oh, you're going to control my system. So they start pushing back a little. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll let my tech guy deal with it tomorrow. Or that's when they put on the hard sell. And they say, hey, listen, I'm telling you, this virus you have on your system is going to launch tonight. And this virus can only be dealt with by Microsoft. This is a very high level virus. And trust me, you don't want to go to prison, do you? Do you see how these people work? Do you see what they do? Sad part is when you download their little assisting app or whatever they want to call it, you're actually downloading the virus to your system. And yes, it gives them control. And not only does it give them control of your system at that point, it gives them control of your system even after you're done. Middle of the night, any day a week, you basically opened up a gate just for them to get into your system and do anything they want, anytime they want. And sometimes they'll even charge you to clean it, so to speak. They'll say, oh, yep, there it is. I got rid of it. Now, we normally charge, $1,000 for this high level cleaning, but since you appear not to have done anything, we'll charge you $50. That sounds like a discount, doesn't it? And they'll keep dropping that price until you give in, is what they'll do. But really, it's not the money that they care about. It's access to your system. Because once they have access to your system, they then put your PC in it's like a zombie at that point. And they're creating an army of these zombie PCs that they then use to attack other places like government installations or Visa, MasterCard. And that's how they never get caught, is they're using your system to attack, not theirs. This is just a trick to add your PC into their slave army, so to speak. I know this sounds so crazy and so Hollywood, but it's true. Or they simply steal your data. You know, and they may just simply take the data that's on your system. Or, and I've seen this happen, the next day you turn on your system and you get that ransomware, and it comes up and says, your entire hard drive has been encrypted. We control it. If you want your data back, you will send, if you want the key to unencrypt it, you will send $300 or whatever they think they can get to this foreign bank account within 24 hours or within 5 hours or whatever. And yeah, if you don't do it, you're not getting your system back. Hopefully you made backups. Ransomware, they hold your entire PC ransom because they've encrypted it. And if you don't have the encryption key, you've basically lost all of your data. Any questions so far? I feel like I've really been dropping a whole bunch. And I know some of you have seen some of these. Anything at all?
We don't have any questions right now. Of course, people can raise their hands if they'd like to ask you questions. And I'm really interested in this because the Microsoft one has happened to a business owner that I know. And the email that came in was so similar to a regular contact that it was easy to skip over it, just seeing the first name, but not actually how they had taken the email and changed it a little bit.
Exactly. And a lot of times, because people are used to updating their PC, you know, come up and say you need to reboot to update or automatic updates to finish. What they'll do is they won't talk about a virus on your system at all because that draws too much notice. Sometimes they will actually just send you an email saying critical update. This is a Microsoft critical update. Click here to immediately get it. Microsoft doesn't email out stuff like that. You know, your system will update automatically. And it's just what they think they can do to trick people is what they do. Thank you for sharing that, Leslie. Number 6, a charity or disaster scam. Oh my gosh, did we see this during the pandemic? We still are. This is crazy. A lot of these scammers will actually tie in to a current event for relevance. Okay. They'll tune it because keep in mind, if you want to be a good scammer here, I'll just teach you how to be a good criminal here. If you want to be a good scammer, the easiest way to scam people out of money is to connect with something that they value dearly. Okay. Connect with something that's important to them. So for instance, if I'm going after a grandparent, I'll pretend to be their grandkid. You know, if I'm going after a business person, I'll claim that they're about to lose money, you know, or their business's reputation is about to get trashed or something. I will try to figure out what your weakness is and then use that. And that's what happens with all of the wonderful, good people who love helping other people. This is how they get scammed. Like I said, these scams are usually tied to current events. And whenever you have a major issue, like here in Texas, you know, we had a major power outage in the vast majority of southern Texas for weeks. And the scammers were going crazy, basically pretending to be the power company, saying to turn your power back on, all we need is this little bit of reconnection fee. Click here. And of course, the power doesn't come back on. You know, or it's crazy what we've seen. And that always happens with major events. So whenever you see a major event happen, be on the lookout. Those emails, those texts, those social media pop-ups will start coming. A lot of times, if you're rich, they already researched you and they know what you give to and what you don't. So for instance, let's say you're rich. Let's say and by the way, you keep hearing me say the word rich, and most of you small business owners don't think of yourself that way. You're a business owner. To the scammers, you have resources, more resources than they do. And so they look for key titles like business owner, CEO, president on the websites, and they target you because chances are you're going to be the one who throws money at a problem instead of investigates it. That's what they hope anyway. So they research you. They know your causes. They know what you're into. So for instance, maybe your company or you are big into animal welfare, taking care of animals and, shelter pets and stuff like that. So if they find that out, guess what they're going to do? They're going to make their email be about that and send it to you or reach out to you. Trust me, these people are good at what they do. They'll use emails, they'll use social media, they'll target you in a number of ways. It's very easy to do. But so many people, they forget that a lot of their information is just out there for everyone to see. And so they say, well, how did they know I like, I like dog causes? How do they know I like animal causes and support them? That's because you said so on Facebook. It's because you say so on your website in the About Us section. So just realize they're going to come after you where you're weak. Whenever anyone calls claiming to be with a charity, I always like to go check them at CharityWatch.org. Charity Watch, and they're not the only one out there. There's some others. But CharityWatch.org allows you to search for a charity, and it will tell you whether it's legit or not, whether it's registered or not, and if they've had any complaints. You could also check the Better Business Bureau, basically BBB.org. But they're more about businesses than nonprofits. So I would probably start with CharityWatch.org. Have you seen any of those kind of emails, Leslie? Trying to scam you for charities and stuff?
Yes, I sure have. And you think that you've seen them all and you realize, okay, I haven't seen them all because there's quite a few that pop up, I guess, just when there's a new disaster or a new something you have to worry about.
And I'm sure you've seen the ones during the pandemic too, like I've seen. I mean,
yes.
and the sad part is they're hard to tell because they use all the right words. They'll say CDC this, they'll use people's names, they'll talk about the need, and it'll seem to match what's going on.
It does. And one I saw was when, when everyone really started cleaning, I saw a lot of stuff about that this was going to do all these certain things. And, I had to stop and kind of think about it myself, if this was a scam or not. So.
And sadly, and it even got a little political, there were also a lot of scammers who offered cures. And to me, that's medical malpractice. When someone claims they have a cure for something that no one else seems to have, don't believe them. Okay. So just keep in mind, there's a lot of this going on right now. Trust me, there's a lot of this going on right now. Number 7, phony contests. These were some of the first internet scams that we ran into. And they basically started out with simple emails that people would receive saying, you won the International Bolivian Lottery. You may not remember entering it, but you probably entered it through a number of things that you filled out, blah, 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 blah. So they first convince you that somehow you did get entered in this contest, and then they convince you that you've won. Then they'll say something like, since this is overseas and moving money around costs, we just need to verify that you are the actual person we're sending this to. So if you would transfer, say, $200 to this account overseas, and that will show us the account we need to transfer your $1 million back to. And of course, we'll give you $1 million plus 200 or 300 or whatever. Seriously. And so you end up giving them your bank account. And so they don't take 300 out of your account. They take it all. They just empty it and they transfer it. And before you can call and reverse it or get it fixed, guess what? They've already transferred it out of the dummy account into a real account or another dummy, and it's gone halfway around the world and you'll never find it again or ever get it back again. Don't give people over the phone your bank account information. Can I just say that? Don't give people over the phone your bank account information. I'm okay with giving people your credit card information, debit card information, but not bank account information. And then you're saying, well, Eric, why are you okay with giving credit card numbers and all that? Because if they con you, you get your money back. Credit card companies will take care of that. Not if you give your bank account out. Banks, depending on the bank, they may attempt to do something, but you transfer too much money out, they're not going to pay it back. Never, ever. This is the rule to remember about contests. Don't you ever pay anyone to win something. You know what I'm saying? If you actually won the lottery, it doesn't cost you money to collect that money. Okay? If you ever win something, they should just send it to you. They should get it to you. There should be phone calls. There should be all sorts of ways to verify. But it will never cost you money to win money. Well, Vegas maybe. If someone claims that you have won and you really start to believe them, like, yeah, I did go to that conference and I did enter that contest, maybe I did win. How else would anyone know that? What I would do is I would hang up with whoever's calling me, say, hey, let me just call y'all back. And then you look them up on the internet and you call them back and you verify. I'm telling you, the callback is one of the best ways to stop this. If you don't trust someone is who they say they are, call them back. And don't call them back at the number that they give you. Call them back after you look it up on Google. Or if it's someone's number you actually have in your contacts, their cell phone. Okay. I can't tell you how many times I've had people in my audience tell me, Eric, you're right. I believed him. In fact, I really thought it was the guy who I entered the contest with back at that conference. But when I called the company back, they said, no, you didn't win. And there's no one here by that name. I'm telling you, this happens all the time. Do the callback. It's one of the best tips I can give you. Number 8, the fake antivirus. This one is usually not a call. This one is a pop-up. And some of you have seen this. Some of you have seen this. Some of you have seen it. You're just surfing on the internet, clicking on stuff, and all of a sudden, your whole screen just goes boop, and it goes, you're infected with a virus. Click here immediately to remove it. If you ever have your whole system go bonkers like that, and say you have a virus, and it says you have a virus, and the only way to get around it is to click here or to call a number, guess what? You're already infected with the virus. Sometimes just rebooting will get you back, okay? But a lot of the good viruses these days will come up every time. And in that case, you almost need to call a tech person to come out and clean it off your system, because if you don't, you'll never get back into your system again. You're not infected. You are infected with a virus, but not because they told you you are. You were infected beforehand. Like I said, it'll say click here to remove. And when you do that, it's either going to download more viruses, or it's going to ask you for payment, or it's going to something. Okay. Just don't click. If I ever see that pop up, and yes, I have seen that on a client's machine. One time I turned it on and boom, that popped up. And I was like, and so I rebooted it and it was fine. Okay. Some of these websites, did you say something, Leslie?
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you, because what about you get like I've seen a lot of like pay your invoice from a company through their QuickBooks account or something like that. Have you seen a lot of that starting to happen where people just send you, click here to pay this invoice? If they kind of
Yeah,
know.
but that's legit. I do that all the
Okay.
time. And the way I know that's legit is because I open up the invoice and sure enough, it's legit. It's a legit invoice and it has a pay online. And when I click on the pay online, I watch what the address is, where it's going to. And it had better say, like, what is it? QuickBooks or Intuit or something. You follow me?
Yeah.
But if it
Okay.
says something like Uncle Howard's House of sketchyfinances.com, watch the address it actually goes to. Okay.
Okay.
And
Okay.
hover over the link. And a lot of times, what you'll discover is if you hover over links in emails, down in the bottom left, it will show you the address it will actually take you to and see if that looks legit.
Okay.
Okay. But no, paying invoices online happens. I do it all the time. And I love it. Just make sure it's legit. That's all. Good question. Good point. Many times, clicking here to remove it just makes it worse and your system gets hijacked. And basically, you've lost control of your system at that point. And I've seen this happen too, where no matter what I reboot and it keeps coming back up to that. And some of these viruses are so evil that we've actually had to pretty much erase APC and take it back to factory settings just to get rid of the virus. If anything, that should teach you about backups. Backups. I store all my data in the cloud, so I don't worry about doing backups. Okay. But if you don't store your data in the cloud, then you better be copying and doing something on a regular basis to make sure you have backups of your data. Because if one of those viruses, one of those nefarious little viruses gets in your system, you've lost everything and you don't want to retype all that. So a lot of times I tell people to reboot and stay out of the dark web. Now, some of you are going to think this is funny. Back in the day, I had one of the departments I had in my company fixed computers. I had a tech support crew who fixed computers, and sometimes I helped them out a little bit. And you would be surprised how many parents would bring in their kids' laptops or their kids' PCs and say, yeah, he got a virus. He's stuck on this. He's stuck on that. He got a virus somehow. Can we just fix it? Well, when we go in there, we try to find out what caused the virus. And if these parents knew some of the websites their kids were going to, they would have pause. Okay. Because I'm telling you, the majority of these viruses come from, let's just say, the shadier or red light district of the internet. You're not going to get one of these viruses from major websites. A lot of these viruses are on the shadier or darker side of the internet or the porn sites. You just don't know. Okay. So if it's happening a lot to your kid or your spouse, then tell them to stay in the safe places. Number 9, fake products. I see this scam happen a lot, especially lately. More and more people are now buying things online. And because of the pandemic, it really took off. I mean, people are buying stuff left and right online from places like Amazon and even places that have retail locations like Walmart. They're still buying online simply because of what we're in right now, the pandemic. But the problem is a lot of people will go to like eBay, and there's nothing wrong with eBay, but they'll go to eBay and they'll do a search on and they'll sort prices from low to high. They'll look for a product and they'll sort the prices to where the lowest prices come up first. And so they will see it and they'll go, oh my gosh, that's an amazing deal. And look, it looks just like what I'm ordering. I'm going to get that. Have y'all ever seen those memes that people have, what you ordered versus what you got? You ought to do that search on Google sometimes. What you ordered versus what you got. And it's where people will post a picture of the ad they saw. They actually ordered the product, but what they got was not anything like what was on the picture. Okay, that's kind of what's going on here. Where we see this the most common, okay, and I'll just be honest, pay attention here, where we see kind of like bait and switch, where we see this most happen is with makeup and medicine. Makeup and medicine are the two biggest areas where people get conned. Okay. So, like with makeup, here's how it happens. Let's say you order, a perfume, okay, an expensive perfume, normally $100, and someone's offering it for 20. So you're going, oh my gosh. So you order and receive this $20 perfume that's normally 100 everywhere else. And yeah, it's in the actual bottle. It's not a fake bottle. But when you spray it, it's not as strong. Why? Because what these idiots do is they will drain all the perfume, but maybe a fourth of it, and then put water as the rest of it. Or they'll replace that perfume with a knockoff of that perfume. You follow me? So you're not getting what you paid for. You're either getting a diluted version or you're getting the knockoff version, but they're calling it the real version. Medicine is even worse because it's dangerous. A lot of people who buy vitamins online are not getting what they're being promised. Okay. And so, like I said, for makeup and medicine, I would stick with name brands. I would stick with good companies. I would stick with companies that have good reviews. I would not buy that from people on eBay. I would not buy that from some random person on eBay just because they had the lowest price. And if you are choosing someone with the lowest price on eBay, you need to look at their reviews and see if anyone had any problems. Okay? You just got to be careful with fake products. They're everywhere right now. Leslie, did you have anything to say on that one? Have you seen any fake products going around? Have any of your customers had
Well,
fake
what I was,
products?
well, yes, and what I was, especially when you're a business owner and you're trying to get the best price for some of the products that you need, like, let's say you're just doing window decals or something like that, and you just start doing a search, it's easy to get, not get what you thought you were getting. And also, when you were talking about number 9, I was also thinking about, at one point we had someone on that was selling homemade soaps and stuff like that. And, you're telling about the online scams, but then how do you get your stuff, where people trust your product? And I think that when you said reviews, maybe that's the way to
It
do it.
is, but also when you have videos that show you making it, uh, like I said, when you can show you the Better Business Bureau ranking that you're an A+, there's a lot of different ways to show evidence that you're a good company. Okay. And that is one of your goals. But a lot of times, if you can get someone to review your product and make a video of it, even better.
Right.
Okay.
And so you have to know the scams, because if you're getting some of the ingredients going into your products, you got to know where your stuff's coming from, and then making sure you're getting good products coming in to develop your certain, let's say skin product or something like that. So yeah, it's all kind of ties in together.
Oh yeah, sourcing your ingredients is key. And if people are going to be either applying them to their face, or if it's food and they're going to be eating them, there's a whole bunch of there's a whole bevy of reasons to make sure that you're getting what you're paying for. Okay, because we're talking potential legal situations here. Fake deliveries, number 10. How many of y'all have gotten this text? I'm getting this text practically every couple of days, and it basically says, hey, this is UPS, or hey, this is the Postal Service, and we tried to make a delivery, click here. I'm getting those all the time. Usually you get them by text, which makes you truly believe it because a lot of delivery services do have text notification. Okay. And so what happens is you will get this text saying, we tried to deliver your blah, blah, blah. And maybe they don't even tell you what it is. They just say this product worth $2,000. And since it's worth that much, we want to make sure you went out and got it. If you didn't get it, click here. So of course, someone's going to look out their door, not see it, and what? Click here. And boom. It starts down a whole path of viruses and social engineering, which will result in you losing money. Click here to claim. We see it with all the major areas. I've seen it from all of them, and it seems legit, but it's not. And whatever you do, if you get a text like that saying, you missed our delivery, or we missed a delivery, or click here to receive it, or don't do it. Oh, I'm going to give you a bonus. I know none of y'all have heard this one. This one's crazy. Believe it or not, people are actually calling your cell phone claiming that your car needs an extended warranty. I know none of y'all have seen this one, heard of it. It's pretty much brand new, but I expect it to really take off soon. They'll say that your warranty is expiring. And by the way, that was all sarcasm. They will say that your warranty is expiring and that, major costs could be right around the corner unless you re-up it. You don't want to be out thousands of dollars and no car, and it expires tomorrow, and you don't want to lapse in coverage because it gets to be twice as much if you let it lapse in coverage. So do you see what they're doing there? They're trying to create immediacy. They're trying to get you to act now. That's also one of the biggest clues that someone's taking advantage of you, is if they're trying to make you act now. They're trying to push you, high pressure sales, buy now. Okay. They use scare tactics. They really do. And the scare tactic they use on these, if you actually talk to these people, is like I said before, they will claim that your car warranty will expire tomorrow. And if you wait until then to let it expire before you sign up again, it's going to cost twice as much. So you better do it today. These people are good at what they do, people. I saw this back before the internet with printer cartridges. I really did. And Leslie, you might remember this. I'm not sure. But, random people would call my office and say, hey, we just wanted to confirm the printer cartridges you ordered for your printer. What was that model again?
I have seen that. Yep.
And then one of your receptionists or one of your, first responder phone-wise people, first people to answer the phone, will then go check the copier and come back and say, yeah, it's the blah, 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 the Konica 5433. And they go, oh, yeah, that's what we have here. Yep, yep. Well, I just want to make sure we're sending those cartridges. Your boss said it was critical that you'll have it. Just want to make sure that's okay. And then you go, well, sure, I don't know about it, but sounds legit. So you go, sure. And guess what? They record that phone call. They send the cartridges and charge you hundreds of dollars. And when you say, oh, we didn't order these, they'll go, yeah, you did. In fact, your person accepted them. And guess what? You have to pay. It was the worst scam in the world. But like I said, they simply convinced you that they were the ones providing your printer cartridges. And a lot of times, your first level people answering the phones have no clue who does that. So they just believe them. Let me just conclude with this. If it looks too good to be true, do I even need to finish that? These people use high pressure so you act now. They don't want you talking it over with other people. They don't want you confirming it with your boss. They don't want you researching them. They need you to pay while you're on the phone with them. Remember, Google and Microsoft don't call you. Also, and I don't know why they don't fix this, these scammers, but one of the easiest ways to know you're getting scammed, they can't spell. I'm telling you, you find a misspelling in something, it's a scammer. Big companies have all the stuff they send out go through tons and tons and tons of editors and people proofing it and making sure it looks good because they don't want to be embarrassed. They don't misspell stuff hardly at all. If you see this in email, you see one of these in email, click it's spam. There is an option on your email program that this is spam. And what happens is that if enough of you on that email system like Gmail or Yahoo or whatever, if enough of you on that mark that same message as spam, they get blocked for everybody, and you helped.
Here's one that I've seen is that I was in charge of a website, and we were getting a lot of emails requesting more information. But then when you saw the email addresses that they were coming from all over the world. And so, immediately deleted, but then you don't want to not respond to people that might have want a question answered or something. But that was quite a bit, and at least one was coming in every day.
You're being fished. Small business development centers. See, think about it. If you're a scammer, you look at, say, a small business development center and say, okay, what are they used to getting? And it's those kind of talks. It's those kind of emails that you just mentioned. And so they pretend to be that. And so they start off very innocently. Hey, can you send us more information? It's phishing. And so if you respond to them, guess what? They don't, some of them respond, but some of them don't. They just put you down as someone who responds, and then they sell your information to someone else who's going to come after you. Or they try to see how far they can go with you and say, hey, yeah, I'm a small business and so and blah, 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 blah. And they try to do something that's either going to get them information, get them money, or something. Okay. So I'm glad you don't answer those, but I understand why it's tough, because you don't ever, ever, ever want to ignore a legitimate request.
Absolutely. I do want to tell everyone, we just have a couple minutes. We do have a cybersecurity webinar that starts today. It's for the next 3 weeks. It's a 2-part series. So this week is going to be foundational concepts this afternoon, and it'll also be available on demand, pre-recorded after that. Risk management, and then Friday it will be informational security. We also have basic steps to starting a business in New Mexico coming up. We also have precautions to avoid litigation coming up. Those will be available afterwards, pre-recorded on demand. And then we will have Eric back with us next week. He's going to talk about using social media to generate revenue, a guide for small business, which I love those series because they're so important and so relevant now. And the last thing I wanted to tell everyone, if give just a minute for questions. If you need any no-cost confidential counseling, we're here for you at nmsbdc.org.
And by the way, you can also go there and click on, what is it, presentations or events, and you can actually go back and watch any of my presentations that you might have missed.
Yes, because the thing is that everything kind of builds on each other. So it's kind of this big circle of business life that you may see one part here and then have to go and revisit this other part to connect them all together. So if anybody has any questions, raise your hand or type them into the Q&A. We'll give it just another couple of seconds before we dismiss for today. And I don't see any questions, so I think we are going to wrap up the webinar, and we will thank you, Eric, and we will see everyone next time. So you guys have a great day.
See you later.